Welcome to Between Soul and Sky. This is a soul-centered invitation to a spirit-led, soul-inspired podcast dedicated to guiding you on the evolutionary journey of the soul. Here's your host, Ricky from the Star Whisperer.
Perfect. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Welcome on back to another episode of Between Soul and Sky. I am so excited to welcome back Anya Muhina to do another episode all about something very powerful in Vedic astrology. Welcome on back. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Namaste, guys.
Thank you
for having me here again.
Of course. And for those of you that are new, Anya is a devoted practitioner, and she is a passionate student and teacher of Vedic astrology. And this began for her back in 2020 on her experience. If you want to learn a little bit about Anya's journey, we did an episode, I think it's episode 3, where we talked a little bit more about something known as Mahadasha. And she explained her journey a little bit more into the world of Vedic astrology. So if you'd like to learn a little bit about her journey, you could go there. She offers personalized Vedic astrology readings. She does Kriya Yoga sessions, which all of this you can learn more information about on her website at www.ruchaka.com, which will be available in the description of wherever you're watching this today or listening. So please welcome her on in, show her some love, make sure to follow her on social media. And today we're going to talk a little bit about something very special to me, and I know very special to you, which has to do with Rahu and Ketu, also known as the North and the South Node in Western astrology. So I'd love if you can just give us a little bit of an introduction to the mythology behind these two iconic placements. And what would you like to share about them for us to understand a little bit of how they operate?
So yes, Vedic astrology is all about mythology, mythology.
Mythology, yeah, you're good.
So every planet in Vedic astrology we call grahas.
Okay.
Graha from Sanskrit translated as occupier, something occupies your mind, for example. So Rahu and Ketu, they consider to be grahas, but they don't have physical body. We don't see them in the sky. It's basically mathematical points in the sky. We only can see them a couple times a year when we have a solar and lunar eclipse. And there is a myth about it. So obviously, if you've seen Bollywood stories,
yeah,
which Vedic astrology home country is India, so that's a lot of stories to it, but I'm going to make it short.
Yeah.
So basically, asuras, which are demons, they represent negative forces in this world, and devas is positive forces, so good gods. We have like a scale. We have to balance good and bad. So they were sitting on the drinking nectar of immortality, Amrita. Well, the devas were drinking because Vishnu. So it's like a Bollywood story.
No, you're good.
Vishnu pretended to be a beautiful girl, Mohini.
Okay.
And Vishnu was this Mohini, which the asuras didn't know that it's Vishnu, but they thought it's a beautiful girl. Were sitting and waiting. Mohini would give them nectar of immortality, Amrita. But Mohini was giving it just to the devas. But there is one asura whose name is Svarbhanu, pretended to be a deva, and he went and took a couple sips on Amrita. And then Chandradev and Suryadev, which is sun and the moon, realized that it's not it's asura. They told Mohini, who was Vishnu, and Vishnu took the disc. I forgot the name of it. It's a chakra, something Sanskrit name. Cut the demon's head. So but the demon already took a couple sips of that drink of immortality. So the head became immortal and the body became immortal. And it was curls that they never, the head and the body never going to come together. So now head is the Rahu, which is a north node.
Yeah.
And Ketu is the headless body of that demon.
Yeah.
Who have any head, and they completely they're 180 degrees from each other, and they never meet in the sky. But
Yeah.
and because Chandradev and Suryadev told Vishnu about it, since then Rahu hates the moon, and Rahu and Ketu, they hate the moon, and they only can catch up to sun and the moon during
eclipses.
Couple minutes or couple hours, depends on the eclipse, and we can see it in the sky when the sun or the moon disappears.
Yeah,
but that's the story behind it.
Yeah, so exciting. And
it's Rahu immortal head, and Ketu is headless body.
It's a fascinating story, because then when you think about how you see it in someone's chart, you know, some people will refer to these as like karmic indicators or understanding soul themes. So when you look at Rahu and Ketu in a chart, kind of what goes on in your brain? Like, what are your thoughts of where you see them? Like, what does it mean to you? Like, how do you look at the archetypes?
Sudarshana chakra. Just remember a disc called Sudarshana chakra.
You downloaded that.
I downloaded it, yeah. So yes, Rahu and Ketu represent the karma in the chart. And actually, when I look at the chart, obviously you want to first see your the rising sign, the moon sign, and then for me, I always look at Rahu and Ketu, because Rahu represents the basically our karmic desire head with the mouse. We want to consume, and we have desires in that house. The Rahu is positioned, and Ketu, headless body. The body doesn't have desires, just wants to like be left alone. It's also karmic, but it's what we have done in the past lives. The skills, again, Rahu Ketu, we always 180 degrees from each other. So if Rahu in the first house, Ketu always going to be in the seventh house. Like you have.
Yeah.
In the chart. So Rahu, when Rahu see that's the task you came to accomplish this lifetime.
Yeah.
And Ketu in seventh house, that's the skill you have accomplished and you have mastered in the past lifetimes.
Love it.
So it can go two ways. It's either people have no desire to do anything with this house because they had enough, they accomplished it, they're not interested to do this anymore, or opposite, they are they drag to it because it's familiar to them, they know it, and
comfortable,
and it's comfortable, it's their comfort, and they want to do that. But unfortunately, Rahu is in the house across, and that's what our fears. And that's what the house, what we fear, like we have fears to step in, but that's what we have.
I love that example. I would love to play with one more if you don't mind. Like, let's imagine like the opposite of like Rahu in the 10th house and Ketu in the 4th house.
Like I have.
Yeah, sure. What would that represent for someone? Like when you see that, like what would those themes be for someone?
Ketu in the first house, or fourth house. Fourth house, the house of mother and the homeland. Most likely, I mean, it has to be confirmed, but a couple more indications. You're going to live far away from home, from homeland, from mom. Mom can be distant. There's like maybe mom can something far away from mom. And I just actually find out my mom. Someone else was breastfeeding me when I was born, so it's totally Ketu in the fourth house.
Oh, wow!
My mom gave me to some lady to breastfeed me in the first couple days, and like I live in the United States since I'm 19 years old. So I actually was born in Ukraine, then we moved to Russia. So it's also living far away from home. Where I was born in Ukraine. That's in my chart.
Wow!
And I moved so many times and I live far away from mom. My relationship with my mom, I love her and she loves me, but because I live so far away, we distant.
Yeah.
That's that. And also because person is so Ketu in the fourth house, and it's usually happens all the time. Doesn't matter where you live, you always going to be unhappy. Something is missing in in your home, and a lot of people going to change home. There can be something different with home, but doesn't matter where you live. You're going to be something's going to be missing.
Interesting.
Happiness, because fourth house is our heart chakra, and we will always be. I wouldn't say miserable, but something is missing, you have to, and it's actually something needs to be worked on to find happiness in the present moment, where in home where you are.
Wow.
So that's Ketu in the fourth house, and it's usually if you start reading a chart, people have Ketu in the fourth house. It's either the mom is too far away. There's emotional unhappiness in their home.
Yeah.
If it's more indication in the chart, they're usually going to live abroad, far away from home.
Wow.
And Rahu in the fourth house, in the 10th house, it's another housewife position. Actually, in fact, a lot of women, because back in the days, women used to be housewives.
Yeah.
So now a lot of women who are born with Rahu in 10th house, that's not a housewife position, which even take an example, my life, I love to be at home. As a Cancer rising, especially, I love to cook, I love to clean, I love to be at home, but I drive myself crazy if I don't work. Rahu, honestly, I get Rahu in 10th house of career. I always, what is it called? The people who try to hire you,
like an employer,
headhunters.
Oh yeah.
Headhunters. I will the job always will find me. I always find a job too.
Right.
So it's not a problem for me to find a job.
Oh wow, interesting. It's just a good example so people can compare based upon where they may have Rahu and Ketu in their chart. Now I think another common thing that I find, I mean, even myself included, some people listening probably will have some planets conjunct or really close next to Rahu or Ketu. And I would just love to do an example of, just like the sun or Venus, for an example. If the sun was next to Rahu or Venus was next to Ketu, what would that represent for you? Or how would that influence the person?
So Rahu is planet of desire and a planet of expansion. And it's a planet of crazy expansion. So any planet which conjuncts Rahu, Rahu is going to expand that planet qualities. And obviously it can go sattvic way or it can go tamasic way. Like for example, moon with Rahu. You can go, a person can be anxieties. Moon is our emotions, right? Overthinking. Or opposite, person can go into intuition, can be a psychic, can have some abilities. And Ketu suppresses planet, because Ketu is kind of Ketu is the planet of moksha and liberation. So any planet, Ketu with sun, usually people ego gets smaller. On our ego.
That makes sense though. If it's with K2, because it almost sounds like, so in Western astrology, I always look at the South Node as like a releasing point, like it's a letting go. And so sometimes it would imagine there would be an ego release or letting go of those things that maybe are no longer important to you. And so I the other thing I was curious about is, we haven't talked about nakshatras too much here, which is a whole loaded subject. But I was curious, when you look at Rahu and Ketu, are you more inclined to the sign, the house, the nakshatra that it's in? What is most important for you?
So the house, means where, which area of life. Sign means what, how, for example, where in the seventh, Rahu in the seventh house. where in your relationships, how in the areas with aggressiveness. In nakshatra, we specifically have to again mythology.
Yeah.
So it's specifically going to be happening something connected to that mythology.
Got it.
Like Ardra nakshatra, crying.
Yeah. Yeah. So
storm's going to be happening there.
Lots of tears.
Yes.
So for you, it's you kind of layer it. It sounds like when you look at someone's chart, you're looking at the house, then the sign, and then the nakshatra to help understand it.
Definitely, the first we want to look at the house, I think.
Yeah. You know why I say this? Because as someone that doesn't know a lot, and I'm just kind of learning little bits of pieces, I find that there's mixtures of information. Like some people only focus on the sign or only focus on the nakshatra. So I was always curious, like what is the approach? So that helps. So when someone wants to learn about that,
you have to kind of look at the full picture. But I think like first, like you do want to look at the house, definitely. Yeah. Because like where is going on? Oh, you get aggressive. Where you get aggressive at work? Sometimes it's good to get aggressive at work. Or you get aggressive with your mother. Like that's not good to get aggressive with your mother, you know?
Yeah,
so
totally.
You definitely want to look at the house first.
Totally. And then the other question I would ask is, for you in Vedic astrology, do Rahu and Ketu have like a rulership with a sign? Like, is there a sign that Rahu and Ketu perform better in?
So definitely there's different opinions. Some say Rahu in Taurus.
Yeah.
It's exalted. Some say Rahu in Gemini gets exalted. I'm from personal perspective.
Yeah.
Believe that Taurus gets exalted. Well, again, the Rahu loves luxury, loves consume, loves all the. We live in Rahu times. We live 21st century. All the computers because Rahu rules sign of Aquarius. Aquarius ruled by Saturn in Vedic astrology, but the ruler is Rahu, and Aquarius is all innovations. And I guess in Western astrology, we live in the era of Aquarius right now, right?
Yeah. And so you just said something that it just triggered something in my brain. And currently today, Rahu is in Aquarius as we speak, correct?
No, Rahu just moved. Yes, correct.
He's in Aquarius, right? So we are literally living in this timeline of
AI, yes.
Of consuming
AI, and we're going to also all this like marches right now happening, like all the like big gatherings of people.
The protests.
That's all Rahu in Aquarius, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's Rahu. Rahu in Gemini, because the Gemini rules by Mercury, Taurus rules by Libra, Venus.
I got you. I knew where you were going.
Yes. So Mercury and Venus are Rahu friends. So if Rahu conjunct with Mercury and Venus in chart, it's a good conjunction. Well, I guess it depends which house.
Yeah.
So I believe Rahu does well in Gemini, which is, I believe September 11th happened, Rahu was in Gemini. Some wars happened, Rahu was in Gemini. So it depends, if I'm not mistaken, but there's a lot of historical event happened when
Rahu was in Gemini.
So that axis, Ketu, Rahu, Sagittarius, Gemini. So saying that Ketu, they say get exalted in Sagittarius, which makes sense because Sagittarius is a sign of religious spirituality. So Ketu feels good. They say that Ketu doesn't have a head, so he doesn't actually have aspects, which aspect in Sanskrit drishti.
Yeah.
The way where you look, the sight when you see. So because Ketu doesn't have a head, the people, I also think that Ketu doesn't do aspects. Rahu has 3 aspects, by the way, which as Jupiter, 5th aspect, 7th aspect, and 9th aspect. So in the sky right now, by the way, Jupiter and Rahu, they mutually aspecting each other.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, so Ketu does good in Sagittarius because it's spirituality, and Ketu, well, I personally think that's the only sign Ketu does.
Okay.
Well, I guess also it depends.
Yeah, no, and the fact that you brought this up, I'm curious because we talked just a little bit about Rahu and Aquarius and some of the influences of that. What could we potentially experience with K2 and Leo? Like what
Uh,
are some themes that we may notice like collectively over the next year?
the ego gets shattered. The
Okay.
ego gets shattered, and people going to be more working in the groups, creating societies,
Yeah.
thinking more globally. So Leo is all about like ego, yourself, like self-centered. So that's
Yeah.
gets smaller, while the big groups of people gets bigger.
Got it.
Mhm.
It's interesting because you look at like today, for an example, as we're recording this, like there's been so much change in the month of June on this planet that we're in,
That
or
Mars, that
on, I should say, not
Mars
in.
is Ketu in the sky right now.
And that's I'm very curious to see what July would have in store.
But
Um,
July is gonna have in store much more because this conjunction gonna be until the end of July, July
yeah,
20, and
second, I think it's
exact
July 22nd. Do you have?
July this exact conjunction gonna happen July 22nd, and until July
Yeah.
28th it's gonna be over. But when Mars and Ketu going to be in planetary war, something crazy gonna happen because this conjunction last time happened Hamas. 9/11 was Mars Ketu conjunct happened, and it's a conjunction of terrorists.
Sorry, what sign was that in? Do you remember?
Uh, Last year it was Pisces. Oh, Hamas was what happened 2 years ago, right?
Yeah. I think it
I
was
believe,
2023 if I'm correct. I could be wrong.
I believe it was Aries. Oh yeah, Aries, right? Yeah.
And that was Mars, you were saying was involved in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Was that was Mars Rahu?
So hold on, Mars Rahu is Aries, so Mars and Ketu were in Leo.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting because that's something I've been watching too, actually. I've seen this coming now for a while, Mars on K2 in the South Node. And this time it's happening in Leo, and for Western astrology, it happens in Virgo. And it'll be interesting to see, like you said, what's going to happen because Mars does bring out the war and the conflict and the aggression.
Mhm.
Um, and then my question I would ask, it's not even a question, it's more of like a contemplation. If K2 also could be suppression, could it be a suppression of war? Could it be like an ending? Could we notice an ending that might be possible? Or am I being too optimistic?
Um, with the Saturn, well, Saturn right now in Pisces, in a couple years, Saturn's going to be debilitated
In
in Aries.
Aries.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to be ending of a war.
Yeah, no. You think
No.
it's something that's coming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're in the World War III,
It's
for
interesting. I've been watching the relationship between some of these planets, like because we're entering new cycles and new territories. Like planets are changing signs, and that's always a big deal. Um, and when that happens, especially when you're dealing with a sign like Aries, which has a lot to do with conflict and aggression and war, you know, you don't have to look far in history to see what has happened during those times.
Mhm.
Um, Saturn isn't a planet that's like 100 years. It's only 29 years. So like you could look back and see like what happened 29 years ago, what was going on.
And history
Um,
itself.
yeah. So interesting. Thank you for sharing that. You started to getting into rulerships too. So what I was going to say is, in a chart with Rahu and Ketu, how do you use the lords or the rulers of Rahu and Ketu? How do they add to the story that you're picking up on when you read someone's chart?
Um, Ketu also does good in Scorpio because Rahu gets
Yeah,
mm, how so again the Ketu is the planet of moksha and liberation, and also and Ketu, it's also like a fire planet. It's similar to Mars, and Rahu is similar to Saturn because
okay.
it rules Aquarius. So Ketu wants you to be liberated, to not to have material desires about this from this world, but to be liberated. And
Yeah,
Rahu is opposite. It wants to consume. It wants to have more. Yeah. All the computers, all the plastic, the clothes, the food we eat right now, it's all Rahu.
Yeah.
Consumption.
So if you had like your Ketu was in I forgot in Sagittarius, the ruler of that Ketu would be Jupiter.
Jupiter, Oh yes, significator. You're asking about
Yes.
significator. Oh, it's one of the most important. We need to look.
Okay.
We need to look at the house where Rahu or Ketu position, and I mean the sign, not the house sign, and whichever planet the rules that sign, that's going to be significator.
Okay.
Of Rahu and Ketu or Ketu. And we need to look at the position of the significator. So basically, well, let's say Rahu. Your Rahu in Sagittarius. Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, and then we need to go where the Jupiter goes. So
yeah,
house. So basically, your karmic debt for this life to work on first house and the eighth house.
Yeah, they connect. So it's almost like you wherever your Ketu is or your Rahu is, we'll use Rahu because that's what you use. You figure out what sign Rahu is in. And then you ask yourself what planet rules that sign. And then where is that planet showing up in your chart? And that could tell you how you are going to resolve the karma associated with Rahu.
Yes.
Perfect. And then,
for example, for your from your chart, you have to. Ketu in the seventh house tells you like relationships are done. Forget about relationships. You have to put yourself on the first place, and you need to do something in this lifetime with your own image and physical body through the eighth house with the help of eighth house, because Jupiter is in eighth house. As the ruler of the chart, also it's going to be eighth house, going to be very important throughout the whole life. Your tarot cards, astrology, all the brujeria, I call it.
Yes, exactly. That actually would be an interesting conversation to talk about the ascendant or the lagna and the rulers and kind of talk, because I think that's a fascinating subject as well. How important that is.
Everything is important.
It is. The more that you learn and the more that you study, the more that you realize you need to learn and study. It just keeps going. So one of the things that I would love to say is that for someone that is just maybe a beginner, they're interested. They're like, oh, this is intriguing me, but like I'm a little confused. What would be a great way to begin learning about Rahu and Ketu? Do you have any like suggested resources or, apps on your phone that you like that you could suggest to people to study?
YouTube.
There's okay.
Information on YouTube, yes.
Okay, perfect. Is there like anyone in like
that amazing book I just shared with you?
I know, and I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I'll get it and I'll include it in the link.
The Key of Life.
Oh, yes.
The Key of Life by, oh my gosh.
I'll add it in the description no matter what.
Add the link because that's actually the best book to learn about Rahu and Ketu. It's a long book. It's a 420 pages.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much explains everything. Because again, like the Vedic astrology translated from Vedas, from the ancient books.
Yes.
And all the information is basically the base of it from Vedas. And you have to take here, but
a little bit.
Yeah. By it's gonna download it to me.
Yeah, give us 2 minutes. One book that I personally like on Rahu and Ketu and the lunar nodes is by an astrologer named Judith Hill. And Judith Hill is a medical astrologer. And she uses Western astrology, but in her book, The Lunar Nodes, she talks about a lot of the Vedic practices of Rahu and Ketu that I found fascinating. And it was from that moment a while ago when I started reading that book, it made me curious, like my interest was piqued. And I was like, interesting that there's this whole other world to learn about the North and South Node, Rahu and Ketu, than what we're told. So that's another great book that gets into these placements. It's a good book. It gets into the medical side of things, which actually is just a thought in my brain. Do Rahu and Ketu have anything to do medically, like with health?
Of course.
How would those play out?
So Rahu gives you an anxieties. When Rahu is conjoined, well, I guess Mercury is our intelligence. It's our the person can be a little bit schizo. So I've seen chart like Ketu with moon can give you like schizophrenia, or Rahu Ketu, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. The moon or Mercury depends. But yeah, definitely. Rahu, all not well, Mercury gives neurological diseases, but Rahu specifically on anxieties and
Yeah.
something to do with your
Psyche?
psyche, да. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Ketu is more like a fire planet. So Ketu, I would say, acts like Mars, Agni, and may give like acne or something with the
Oh, wow.
fire related.
Okay.
Because
That's interesting.
air is air. Rahu is air, so it's
Yeah.
all about thinking about intelligence, something in your head. And Ketu is
Ketu's
fire, so
fire.
digestion problems, again acne or
Yeah. And does it matter, like, depending on the sign, it would also influence that, right? Like, if it was maybe K2 and Virgo, could that indicate more like indigestion and stomach issues or gut issues or anything like that? Would
Mhm,
yeah, okay.
definitely. But Ketu and Virgo person was a healer in the past life. Could
So
have been.
maybe they know how to take care of themselves.
They have it. Yeah.
Interesting. So looking at
My daughter was born with Ketu in Virgo in the 12th
interesting.
house, so I'm pretty positive she's going to be. Her chart is like very close to medical field.
Yeah.
Rather than
So maybe she'll be a healer or doctor or nurse
yeah.
or um and that means she has Rahu in Pisces.
Mhm.
So that's a beautiful. Go ahead. Sorry, you were gonna say something.
Her father, by the way, has Ketu in Leo in the first house. He suffers from headburn like crazy. Headburn is,
Wow.
like,
Yeah. Yeah,
acid.
yeah. And Leo rules the heart.
Mhm.
This is an interesting time for him because he's going through his return.
Yeah.
The nodes are gonna or the K2
So
and Rahu return.
I told him that his life is going to be changing. He's like, can't wait. I'm like, okay.
I know. Whenever I see someone going through their return with Rahu and Ketu or the lunar nodes, I'm always so interested in the changes that happen. Actually, that's a great question for you because I did want to talk about transits. You know, every what is it, 18 to 19 years, you go through this return cycle. And so in a chart, um, what could someone anticipate around these life cycles? So when they're 18, 19, when you're 36, like
Something,
what is
something karmic is going to happen. Yes, yours is going to come soon in
yeah,
3 years,
yeah, a couple of years.
couple years. Mine is just happened when Rahu were in Aries, and I opened ruchaka.com. That was my
Yeah,
astrology. Yes,
that was
my
your declaration.
mhm. Huh?
I said that was your declaration. You're like, here I am, I'm gonna make my mark.
Yeah,
Um,
like, I start like the astrology because my Rahu and I guess nakshatras. Then you have to also, besides of the sign significator, you have to look at the nakshatras, also rulers. And
yeah.
My Rahu is a nakshatra of Harani, which rules by Venus. Venus in the ninth house of spirituality and travel. I traveled
Ah,
when I had the Rahu return. I was traveling
yeah.
the globe,
That's
India,
so cool.
Italy, Russia, here and there. Yeah.
That's cool that you could track that. So let's say in another example, as far as transits go, um, let's use the example of, Rahu or Ketu in the first house transiting over the ascendant, the Lagna. I'm curious about how do these bodies show up? Like how does it influence the chart in a transit?
So when Ketu transiting first house, a person most likely going to be wondering why, what he's doing in this life, what's
Yeah.
his life purpose. He's going to be more like isolated, more
Yeah,
kind
wanting to be alone.
like leave me alone. Yes, leave me alone. And when Rahu going through the first house, it can go two ways. Either person going to go party and drugs and overconsumption,
Yeah.
or person going to be working on his own image. Like a lot of people with
Oh, yeah.
in Rahu in the first house, they do something, they become famous. I guess also like has to be indication in the chart through
Yeah.
their own image. Like they can be models for magazines or opening their own brand or something.
That's interesting. And then, so, excuse me. So the transit themselves last about 18 months, right? So there you're going to experience these themes for about 18 months, depending on where they fall in your
Yeah,
chart.
so it's a slow moving planet. So like in 18 months, like a lot of can happen, and usually long transits they bring more fundamental stuff to life.
Yeah. Is there a particular placement of Rahu and Ketu that you find in charts is more difficult? Um,
Yeah.
or yeah, go ahead.
No, you definitely difficult house can Rahu, for example, for me, Rahu right now in eighth house, transiting eighth house. So I'm waiting. I'm
Yeah,
waiting for something to happen. Um, like Rahu exaggerates everything in that house. So you definitely want to, it's easier to, Rahu goes through good house than difficult house, the Dushanas. And Ketu shrinks everything. So probably you want Ketu in Dushana in the
yeah,
bottom. Mhm.
right. Because it'll help minimize what would be potentially negative or bad. It would reduce those things.
Mhm.
Um, that's interesting. Because I was just thinking about that. It's almost like what if you're born with specific Rahu and Ketu in, you know, the eighth house, for an example, or the 12th house?
Mhm.
Because I know there's going to be people that are listening to this that are going to be
Yeah.
like, oh shit, oh my God, I have this placement in this part of my chart.
Mhm.
What wisdom would you have? Because I sometimes think Rahu and Ketu can sometimes be overwhelming. I think it can be a lot sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, do you have any words of wisdom for individuals that may have a difficult Rahu or Ketu and any remedies?
So yes, no, definitely, because um every planet, every house, we have different qualities in it. Dushana house can have something good in it too. So we have three Dushanas, 6, 8, and 12. Sixth house, it's deaths, enemies, and diseases, but also it's healing, it's everyday routine, it's pets, what do you do every day, like going grocery shopping. So
Yeah,
if you have Rahu in the sixth house, it's actually good. They say it's a good position for Rahu because Rahu helps you to fight the enemies, helps you to fight the debts, and
yeah,
helps you to be obsessed about routine.
yeah,
So you want to choose instead of getting sick, like go do a detox, for example. So you kind of
yeah,
like want to start that energy working for you instead of something that happened. Eighth house is the house of astrology. It's a house of working with psychologist, psychiatrist, no psychiatrist, just like shrink or
yeah.
something. So you can like go get like natal chart if you have Rahu doing
In the
it.
eighth house.
Like my Rahu in eighth house right now, and look what we're doing right now.
I know, right? That's perfect. Maybe
Mhm.
that's what you were waiting for. It was going to show up, whether it was when Rahu entered your eighth house. Um, that's funny. Um, so just in general, I would say be patient with yourself and learn a little bit more about what that house is asking of you. I always like to reframe it because I don't feel like the placements are inherently negative. I don't think like Rahu and Ketu are trying to like do
No,
negative or bad, but there's a lesson in everything that's happening, and I think it's important to ask yourself, what am I meant to learn right now? And why am I meant to learn this lesson? It's super important. And I think that kind of gets into karma a little bit too. It gets a little
karma.
bit into
It's all
and your own personal dharma. Sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
it's all about karma. I forgot. So that's the main thing.
You're good.
Every planet is a karma.
Yeah.
Even like Mercury, Venus, Sun, it's everything. It's a karma from your past lives,
Yeah.
and Rahu and Ketu too. So it
Yeah.
depends on the personal karma.
Yeah. And the other thing I would just like to say, because again, you and I talked a couple episodes ago about the Mahadasha system and exploring what that means. And for those of you that listened to that episode, if you haven't, please do. There are specific Mahadashas that are tied to Rahu and Ketu.
Mhm.
And what happens is that I don't want to assume, that's why I'm going to ask. If you're going through a Rahu, Mahadasha, that's the cycle that you're in, or Ketu, would that mean that your personal Rahu, depending on what house and sign it in, is active now
Yeah,
for
definitely.
however many years that cycle is? Is that true?
Yes, that's actually true.
Okay.
Definitely. If a person, like for example, has Rahu in no, let's say eighth house, yes, eighth house of death and transformation, but he is born in Jupiter Mahadasha, so most likely he's not gonna leave Rahu Mahadasha. So
Yeah.
that death and transformation is not going to be turned on or going
Got
to be
it.
turned on like 100
Right.
years.
Right.
There is still Antradashas. Let's
Yeah.
not
And
forget.
so it'll still show up somehow, even if it's not large,
Yes,
it'll be
definitely.
significant.
Yes, gonna be shorter period of that karma.
Yeah. Interesting. And so I just want to say as well, if y'all are interested in exploring this, I really do encourage you to do a session with Anya because I think it'll help you so much gain more depth into what's going on. Like, especially right now, if you're in a space where you feel a little confused, or if you're
Mhm.
feeling a little lost, or if you feel a little off track or something like this, I think it's a beautiful time to try to introduce. I think it's going to give you so much more understanding of what you may be experiencing. So I totally encourage you guys to do that. Again, she said it already, but it's ruchaka.com, and that'll be in the link down below. Um, and so I only have a few more questions for you that I wanted to ask. And one of them that I think is that I'd be interested in is today with Rahu in Aquarius and Ketu in Leo. Um, you and I briefly spoke about this question before we came on here. Um, I look at these placements as they are pushing us as a civilization. They are pushing us as a humanity, as a race. What do you feel that Rahu and Ketu are trying to share with us right now? What is the lesson that we're going through as a planet?
So as I mentioned, they trying to teach us to not to be egoistic, not to live as a one person, to look at everything globally as the community. That there's a global warming, there's too much trash, too much overconsumption. So yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah, but we, as you see right now, we live in AI
yeah,
times, so that's a Rahu in Aquarius. Well, before it was Saturn Aquarius. That's actually when it started everything 2.5 years ago, a little bit more now. So now it's Rahu in Aquarius, and cryptocurrency, everything is going to
yeah.
go, everything going to go digital, which is Aquarius. So yeah.
Do you have any advice for us? Because I know a lot of people, I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people that are nervous about that.
Oh yeah, I'm nervous about it too.
Like how they're not in the space or ready for so much technology, or they're nervous about AI. What could we learn from, having Rahu here in Aquarius? Are we just meant to like embrace it and be like, you know what? Well, let me just dive on in, or should there be discernment and discrimination?
Oh, Rahu in Aquarius, it obviously brought us a lot of stuff. We have a cell phone, we can talk to another person through on different side of the world. We
Yeah,
have computers, we can research Google and you
2 seconds.
question just 2 seconds, yes, about pregnancy, about any recipe.
Yeah,
So in Aquarius, it's a good thing. It's innovations, but let's not forget there is a beautiful nature outside. So let's just be more in the nature, ground
yeah,
ourselves, be sitting by the ocean, by the tree. Because even like right now, I have a little baby, and I remember my generation, we grew up with no cell phones.
yeah.
We were just playing around in the dirt with the
Having fun.
whatever God sends us, like
Yeah.
I don't know, leaves from the tree was the toy. Right now, all the kids sitting in the gadgets, and it's actually sad.
Yeah. I've
They
noticed that too. And I feel like it's I'm curious because like Leo for me sometimes can bring out that playful side of us, right? The child in us that wants to have fun and play
yes.
and having K2 there, I'm just wondering if there's a lesson in that for us as well, to allow ourselves to also be a child again and have fun and
Yeah.
not get so enraptured in all of this technology stuff. It's I think it's like a balance. And that's actually a question I can also ask you. So many people are like, you need to live in your Rahu, you need to live in your North Node. That's what you're supposed to do. I personally don't agree with that. But people have there's so much like false astrology conversation on that topic about only go to your North Node or your Rahu. Do you see it as a balance, like where you need to
Absolutely, it
balance
has
both?
to be balanced. Everything has to be balanced in life. Yes, definitely.
And I feel like now, as a civilization, as a planet, how do we find? You don't know the answer because this would be like world peace. How do we find that balance as a civilization between the desire for the expansion of technology, to come together as one without losing who we are?
So it starts from one.
Yeah,
You have
totally.
to find it in you, and then other people will.
Yeah, you got to have like a healthy Leo, it sounds like. You need to be like a healthy Leo energy. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can inspire other people or something like that. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Um, and have more fun. I feel like things got heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and it almost feels like um if it's so heavy and we forget to play, what's the point? I don't know. I just asked that question. What's the point if we're not able to enjoy?
Leo is also sign of a family.
Yeah,
It's like go back to family, to your roots.
yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
do you find that and when does the sorry, when did the axis switch? Do you remember?
May 18.
So it'll last until the end of 2026?
Yes,
20,
2026. Yes, I
yeah.
think they're moving December 2026.
Yeah, I have it written down actually, because I'm doing a presentation on it, but I don't have them written down in front of me right now. I know the dates right now, but next year is far. Um, so this cycle, we can notice the increase of AI, the increase of technology, yet the opportunity to come together, the opportunity to find commonalities, the opportunity for us to unite. And then you're also saying that there can be some family things that show up right now for us. Um, and this could be letting go of things. This could be a breaking down of things, um, which is interesting. So, before we finish up, did you have any pieces of wisdom or advice that you wanted to share? Any last, good words of anything? Any golden nuggets that you want to share about Rahu and Ketu?
So as I mentioned, we live in Rahu times, and Rahu, as I said, there's gunas, right? The qualities of life,
Yeah,
sattva, rajas, and tamas, and everything in balance in life. We have to have a sattva and tamas and rajas to like Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. But Rahu is the planet of tremendous intuition, abilities to see the future. And but also when people under Rahu influence, they tend to overconsume, drink alcohol, blur that head,
yeah.
whatever, drugs,
So they're
alcohol.
not intuitive anymore. They can't pick up on
Yes.
anything.
So I guess my words of wisdom: don't do that, and try to connect more with your self through with your intuition.
I love that.
Be in the nature, just like walk barefoot and hug a tree.
I love that advice. Don't drink and live a sattvic life.
But
Is
don't drink and go hug a tree.
Yes, that's the advice for today, to embrace these two. I love what you were just talking about. And for those of you, again, those are the three, right? There's three gunas, which are the three different ways that you can live your life. And I look at it like there's a totem pole. and it's almost like the lowest level, which is it's called tamas, is the lowest level of frequency per se, like shadow stuff. Like you're
Inertia.
doing things at a shadow level. And then the level above that is called
Rajas.
rajas.
Rajas is the passion.
Is it a creative?
It's a creativity, but because it's connected to sex and
Got it.
and like all the expensive stuff. Like I say it like this. Rajas is expensive wine from a winery. And
Okay.
And Tamas is terrible,
cheap manufactured wine.
Cheap wine. And Sattva is non-alcoholic pure water.
Yeah. That's a great example actually to use. And the goal is all of us are trying to aspire to get to the space all within balance, but you really are wanting to bring more of that sattvic energy into your life.
Actually, it's a great topic everything in our life is energy, sattva, rajas, and tamas. All the planets, all the food in your refrigerators, the clothes you're wearing. You can wear organic clothes, or you can wear some cheap made in China clothes where like people, like don't get paid, jumping out of the windows, or you can wear Gucci like Rajasti clothes, like overpriced clothes. So yes, everything gunas in this life, and everything connected, and
that would be a fascinating podcast episode to talk about this.
Yes, and Rahu and Ketu the same way. Ketu can make you miserable, and you can be suicidal in Tamasic guna, or Ketu can make you a lot of priests, a lot of like very spiritual people, they had very strong Ketu in the chart.
Yeah. Ketu I could see that, like for detachment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Attachment, and also like experience about the spirituality, religion from the past life.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can
interesting. Interesting.
It's up to you how to live your life. You want to live it in tamasic energies to get drunk and like do drugs every day and eat food, or you can be try to be to sattvic energies, which that's what
it depends, right? And it depends, like I always say, it depends on your level of consciousness and where you are at within your desires. Truly. I look at the gunas and the three qualities tied to like those desires. Like, what really do you desire? And are you kind of over like the luxury style of things? Like, are you over that? Like, are you over the appeal? You just want to try to live a more connected life with God and the universe? Like,
yes. When I started my Rahu Mahadasha, which I just started, not just, but I already started 2022, and also at the same time it was my Rahu return, so it was like all Rahu,
a double whammy.
Mahadasha, Rahu return, and I started to smoke vape because Rahu is a smoke, by the way. Rahu is
it's air, right?
Yes, illusion is smoke. I was smoking vape for the first like couple months, like insanely, like couldn't stop. Where it comes from? So then I start burning Palo Santo because Rahu wants to smoke. It doesn't matter if you want to smoke vape or cigarette or like drugs.
Palo Santo or incense.
So now it's already with Palo Santo everywhere.
That's so funny how it shows up.
Smoke, and it's gonna take you depending on your lifestyle, on the gunas, like
where you're at.
If you want to be lower gunas, probably cigarettes, and you higher gunas, Palo Santo.
And
I started with the vape, and then I also got into yoga, and I stopped drinking, and that like I quit that vape overnight.
Yep, that's amazing because you became aware of it, like your self-awareness raised, and you're like, oh.
But honestly, the desire, it's not gonna stop you. The Rahu, it's very hard. If Rahu blurs your mind, until it's gonna let it go itself. Until the karma burns, it's impossible to stop drinking, or it's impossible to stop vaping, or wherever like the bad quality of guna people have. Until you burn that karma. And for me, it was like listening, by the way, to make those planets better, mantras help.
Yeah.
Mantras, there's a Rahu mantra, there's Maham Pritujaya mantra. So I was listening mantras on repeat in my car. All my
I
friends
love it.
were like, what's wrong with you now? They're like, oh, let's listen to some mantras.
Yeah, but it helps. Look at you.
It definitely helps. Yeah.
That would be an interesting thing too, as far as finding those mantras and stuff like that. Or sharing those. So I just want to say the same because I loved what you said before. So no drinking, and we're gonna hug trees.
You want to have a clear mind.
100%.
The mind, the brain needs to be clear.
100%. I totally agree.
And then you go hug a tree.
Totally. And then you can hug the tree. I appreciate you. This was amazing. I think there's so much in here that we just talked about that there's there's so much wisdom, and I just appreciate you sharing everything that you've learned about these two placements.
Per world, the most important thing. Where Rahu sits in the natal chart, we usually have fears to step in. Like we usually have we don't want to go into that area, but we have to.
Yeah.
And if a person reads a chart, and that's how I explain, okay, this is this is it. You have to be like jump into work, or you have to become Rahu in 9th house. You need to get a teacher to become religious, or so. We always have a fear in that area where
totally.
Because for us it's the territory is unknown. And unknown, we fear
it's scary.
It's scary. Like we like to be cozy.
Yeah, we want to be comfortable back where Ketu's hanging out.
Yeah. But
I think that's great advice. Yeah, I think that's great advice. And one thing that you said last time is the idea of you need to show up to the change. The best thing you can do is embrace the unknown, unless you're comfortable with repeating the same pattern over and over again. Because what's going to happen is you're going to repeat the same cycle over and over and over and over again.
Right?
Yeah, I did. And so it's the same. I call it the merry-go-round, or it's like a circus. It's like, how many times do you need to go on the merry-go-round before you get off? And I think it takes that self-awareness and the desire for something different. And there's something to that where I feel like once you take that plunge into the unknown, you can change, you could grow. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for all your wisdom. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
And for all of you that are listening, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to learn more, and if you want to sign up for some sessions with Anya, again, her website is www.ruchaka.com. I encourage you to follow, like, share, subscribe wherever you guys are listening to this. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.